Hey guys, Rob Potter here with another Behind the Process episode. This is episode number 4. Look, thank you very much for joining me. What I'm going to do today is actually take you through how this photo is processed to hopefully give you guys a bit of a better idea and understanding on how you can do it for yourself. And hopefully some tips and tricks that you can actually then go and apply to your own photos. Now, before I get going, I do want to apologise. This is episode number 4, as mentioned. Episode number 1, I sort of said I didn't really want to commit to any sort of a schedule. However, in episode number 2, I blew that out of the water by saying I'm going to do one of these each week, and I did that for a whole other week. So I got to episode 3, and it's been 2 weeks since I've posted this one. So I want to apologise up front. There are a couple of reasons. I don't want to sort of make any excuses. It's just I've got sidetracked with creating some other videos like Photoshop tutorials and hotspots reviews, live hotspot reviews, which you can now go and see on the YouTube channel, or if you're already watching it on YouTube. And the other reason I've decided to sort of space them out a little bit is that I think these could get quite repetitive quite quickly, because the process that I go through doesn't change up all that much, although I'm actually going to show you something that I'm doing new today. What does change, though, is sort of light situations and movement and variations and subjects and all those sorts of things that I'm hoping that I can show you guys over a long period of time. So what I'm thinking is if I spread them out a little bit, then I'll be able to really pick the photos that I feel you'll get the most out of. So again, I'm not going to commit to any other than if you do, I'm definitely going to do at least one a month. I am hoping to do more, but at least once a month. And there are 2 ways that if you are enjoying these videos and you want to stay up to date with when they do come out, probably 2 ways of doing it. Hop over to the YouTube channel and subscribe if you haven't already done so. For those people that have, thank you so much. It's awesome. Or the second way is to jump over to Photography Hotspots and sign up to the newsletter. So the newsletter does go out at the first of every month. At 10:30 a.m. it graces your inboxes. I've got quite a few people sign up to that, and actually we're in June at the moment, so the 1st of July will actually be 1 year. And so I've been doing it 1 year. It's been awesome. I've been getting some great feedback. And so I'm actually quite excited about that. I have not missed a first of the month. So pumped to keep that going and keep bringing some amazing content into your emails. So let's get into today's photo. Now, if you haven't guessed where this location is, it's probably because you haven't been there. And if you haven't been there, you definitely need to get down and check it out. This is Bradley's Head Reserve down in Sydney. It's a little bit past Taronga Zoo at Mossman, and it is a fantastic photography location. Now, if you're wondering what this is here, this is actually an amphitheatre. So it's actually, again, an outdoor grassed amphitheatre, and it's really, really cool. I've been down here a couple of times. I think this is my 3rd visit down there. And to be honest, on the other 2 occasions, I didn't really get much of a sunset. This is one of the best sunset photography locations in Sydney, I believe. So when I went down there, I haven't been able to sort of capture this amphitheatre the way I wanted. So I went down there purely and solely for the purpose of capturing it, and it certainly exceeded my expectations. I really quite like this photo, and I'm hoping to be able to show you guys a few things today. One, again, which is new, but hopefully a few things today in which you can use your own, you can apply, rather, to your own photos. Now, if you want some more information about this location, again, I highly recommend getting down there. You can check out Hotspots, although I'll also post a link below to it, to the photography location review for Bradley's Head. Go there, check it out, read up all the information you need to, but again, grab your camera and head down there. So, without further ado, let's get into today's photo. So, this, if you're wondering, we've done the last 2 episodes have been from Vivid, and they've been long exposures because of the night. So Vivid's over, unfortunately. But this, I'm back in now into my HDR photography. So I love HDR photography. This is, if you're wondering, this is 7 exposures that look like this. Okay, so we have the underexposed by 3 stops to 1 normal, and then overexposed 1, 2, 3. Okay, so let's stop there and have a little bit of a look. why do I love HDR photography? Well, I'm glad you asked. Basically, it's because I can get a whole range of detail in things that a normal photo wouldn't get. So this is a normal exposure. I mean, obviously I could play around with it if I was taking one exposure to get a little bit more out of this. But you can see the sky is sort of blown out. I've got some information here in the foreground, but not really sort of much information over here and in the darker areas. However, if I underexpose the photo, I get the sky coming back in. And if I overexpose the photo, you can see I get all those details in the shadows, which I didn't have. Now, once you then go and merge them together, and you can use Photoshop for it. You can go File, Automate, I believe, and merge to HDR Pro. But I use a program called Photomatix, and I actually am in the process of putting together a HDR tutorial for you guys, a free one, which will be up on the website sometime soon. But yeah, I use Photomatix, love Photomatix, and what I end up getting, once I've merged them all together, I don't do too much. I don't really play around too much with the settings in Photomatix. I usually just get it to sort of merge them all together. But this is what I get. So this is what I call what I refer to as a tone map version. So you can see that it's basically taken all that information and put it into one photo. Now, we've talked about this in the past episodes, and if you haven't watched them, then definitely go and check them out. There's some good stuff there, not being biased at all. But for me, this is where it sort of begins, okay? So if I give you, again, before and after, that's the before and that's the after. So you can see there's quite a big difference there. And sort of this I'm hoping that you're thinking that, wow, that sort of is a lot more vibrant, really pops, the contrast is quite nice and those sorts of things. So let's go through and I'll show you how exactly I achieve that. Now, something that we have discussed is that basically I use the very first tone mapped image as a building block. So then what I do is I then place all the other exposures, so all of these exposures, into it, okay? And then what I can start to do is I can start to build up all the different areas that I want more light exposed or darker, or elements of it, or especially things like movement, like water, people. I can use this method to sort of freeze them so that I don't get that motion in my photos. So let's turn it on and have a look what we got. So the first one is just a normal layer. I usually just duplicate the first layer. And if you're wondering how to duplicate a layer in Photoshop, it's just Control-J or Command-J on the Mac. And one other little hint, actually I'll show you in a second once we get there. So what I started to do was go through and start to mask out, look at this, and start to mask in all the different areas that I wanted. So I'll turn them on, so you can see you've got the foreground here, okay, and then I sort of did another one for the foreground. I really sort of wanted to bring this out because I think sort of the sun sort of hitting the top of that, so I really sort of wanted to make that stand out a little bit more. Then we started to get some of the light in the trees, okay, and I don't actually think this was the order that I did it in. I think I ended up moving these around a little bit. Now, going through and doing this, especially this tree here, did take me a long time, okay, so a long time, a lot of patience. But I think it's worth it. So there's the path. Okay, the tops of the plants there. So you can see I've really come along here, and again, I spent quite a long time working on this photo. So I'll just go through and sort of turn them all on. Okay, and the last one should be the water. Okay, so just making the water there. Now, usually what I find is, and I've actually just gone and applied levels just to brighten it up a little bit and sort of smooth that in a little bit better. But what I find is I don't actually normally, there's some stuff on the sun there, I don't actually normally touch the clouds. I'm not sure why. Usually I'm quite happy with the way that it comes out of Photomatix, but what I've noticed is that I do a lot of stuff in the foreground, but I don't think there's probably one or two photos that I can remember where I've actually come in here and played around with the sky. So sky I'm usually quite happy with. It's just, again, getting accentuating things in the foreground. Like I really like to try to sculpt things, okay? So sort of really trying to make things look three-dimensional. It's what I'm really trying to go for here. I really want people to say, wow, it actually looks like I'm actually looking into it, or I could actually step into this photo. So that's my goal when going through and doing this process. Now, the very next thing I do, again, if you watch the other videos, you usually know that I then go and sort of start to remove the noise. Now, this is going to be hard to see, so what I'll do is I'll grab my magnifying glass here, and we'll zoom in a little bit. Now, there wasn't actually too much noise with this photo, a little bit. I mean, again, you probably wouldn't worry about it too much, but you can see that when I turn that layer on and off, the noise does go. Now, this is the part that I'm really excited to tell you about, because this is a Camera Raw filter. Now, one thing that you've probably seen in the last couple of episodes is I've started to use Camera Raw quite a bit. I was really, really impressed with Camera Raw and how it allowed me to pull out the details when working with shadows and those sorts of things. So stoked with that, especially for the last photo for Vivid. Fantastic. So I've been doing a fair bit of learning myself and looking up different things when it comes to Camera Raw and how to use it. And what I found that if you have Adobe Photoshop CC, if you have CS6 or something like that, I believe it's not in there. But if you go to Filter now, we actually have Camera Raw Filter, which is brilliant, because what used to happen is we couldn't actually, once we'd opened up a photo inside of Photoshop, there was no actual way of getting it to open back up inside of Camera Raw unless we had a plugin. And I actually used to have a plugin inside Photoshop CS6 that allowed me to open it up in Camera Raw, and then I could do some changes. So this is fantastic. You can see if I click on that, it'll open up inside of Camera Raw, and it's actually opened up on another screen. So let me bring that across. Come on, is it going to? Doesn't look like it wants to, so you may actually just have to trust me when I say that it has actually opened up inside of Camera Raw. Well, that's a bummer. Okay, bugger. But it does actually open up. I promise it opens up inside of Camera Raw. And Camera Raw, again, there are a couple little things that I found. So what I did here was I used it for noise. So I used it for noise reduction. And there's a couple of things in future videos I'll show you about it, and maybe even do some Photoshop tutorials just sort of targeting that on the YouTube channel. So I used this one for noise. However, I've done a couple of photos with it since, and I found that it did lose a little bit of detail when I did it with this method rather than a plugin that I have. Now, there are sliders inside of Camera Raw that can help me maintain the detail, but I just found that this plugin does a much better job and quicker. I don't really have to think about it. With this one, this probably costs about $50, and I don't have any affiliate or anything to do with them. But I've been using this for ever since I first started HDR photography, and it's never done me wrong. My computer's a little bit slow. Here it is here. It's a really easy to use program. I mean, all I do is I come up here to preset. I find out, if it's night, I can obviously, it's got a whole heap of presets here. If it's nighttime, it's nighttime. If there's heaps of noise. But what I normally have it on is weaker noise. And to me, that usually does a fine job. So you can see that when I sort of click on it here, it's a before, and when I let go, it's an after. So I quite like this plugin. If you haven't checked it out, check out Noiseware. It's only a one-off payment. I've only ever bought it once, and it's fantastic. So yeah, love that. So, but again, I am excited about the Camera Raw filter. I think it's definitely something I'm going to be introducing into my workflow. I'll give you a hint, especially when I'm doing buildings, architecture stuff. So hang out for that. I can't wait to get out and photograph a building to be able to show you guys. So hang out for future episodes, because it will blow your mind what Camera Raw can do. Okay, so let's keep moving. The next layer is just so it's not just a normal layer. Here, what I've done is I've actually taken out some objects. Okay, you can see here there's a bit of a lens flare coming over from the sun there, so I've taken that out. And I decided to take out this branch. Now, the way I did it was I actually used Content Aware Fill. So let me show you that. Now, something else I was going to show you before, I mentioned Command J is to combine all layers. Duplicate the selected layer. If I hold down Shift Alt Command and press E, or that'll be Shift Alt Control E on the PC. You can see that what that actually does, actually gives me a brand new layer, but with all the visible layers merged into it. Okay, so that's how I actually work moving forward. That way I can just sort of, once I've made a change and I'm happy with it, I then go again, Shift Option or Shift Alt Command E, merge everything into one layer, and then I apply my next filter. So little tip there, I use that quite a lot. So let's have a look at this. I'll just zoom in a little bit here. Now, there's, again, I could do this a couple of different ways. I could use a clone stamp tool. I could use the healing brush, spot healing brush, all those sorts of things. But what is getting so much better, it's always been pretty good, but what's this, again, I'll blow your mind on what it does, is if I do a rough selection around that area and I go up to Edit and Fill, okay, so I have all my different colors and even some patterns which are quite new and quite funky. But what I can do is content aware. So I can go content aware, and then what that's going to do, it's basically going to look around, okay, and fill it with what it thinks should be there. So it's going to take out this and hopefully fill it with this, and let's go okay and see what it comes up with. So there you go, boom, gone. I don't have to worry about cloning and all those sorts of things. I'll go select and deselect, stop those marching ants. So it's pretty good. Like, there's a bit of a harsh edge here, and there's maybe a slight color variation. But what I could do now is just come in here with the healing brush, and I will sort of just fix this up a little bit. It's quite a hard edge brush that I've got at the moment, but that's all right. Just for purposes, we will keep going. So, and what I would do is I just come in here again. I would make that brush, looks like it's hard. Yes, it is. So I'd make that soft, so the edges all blend in together, and that's how I would fix that up. But content aware fill, it's amazing. Like if you've got a big object, if it's a person, if it's a car, if it's a bin, whatever it might be, you're thinking, okay, I have to get rid of it. I would recommend first of all trying content aware fill, because you'll be amazed at how effective it is of getting rid of things. I tried it down here. It didn't work as well. I still kept it, but what I then did was built on top of it and brought in, using my clone stamp tool to actually sort of get rid of that mask, get rid of that lens flare there. So if I turn this layer on, that's what I ended up with. Okay, so let's move on. Topaz Adjust, you all know that I love Topaz Adjust. So the next was Topaz Adjust. I dropped that down to 70%. So what I do with Topaz Adjust is I always go through and make my changes, but I am conscious of not overdoing it. And you might think, really? But no, I am, honestly. So usually always, just religiously, I do have things that I am set my ways. Religiously, 70%, and they're probably maybe 5% of my images I might play around with that a little bit differently, but it's usually around the 70% mark. Anyway, unsharp mask to sharpen things, especially an image like this that has a whole heap of detail with the grass and the leaves, the texture and the path there, the stairs. I love a nice sharp image. So for me, unsharp mask is brilliant. And then I'm into making my image pop a little bit more with the curves and vibrance. And I haven't quite got to a Photoshop tutorial on this yet, but look out for that because I do plan on doing it to demonstrate this a little bit better. Then we're up to levels. Okay, now this is just a color correction. So I have actually done a video on this. You'll see it's about I think a 5 to 10 minute video on actually how to go about using levels to color correct your image. But you can see that it's quite blue there. I turn that on and probably just accentuates the yellows by the looks of it. And to me, it sort of warmed the image up, but also, again, just added that contrast. Added that depth, which is what I was looking for. So pretty happy there. Combine that all into one layer using that little Shift Command Option E, and then came into levels. Now, again, you can see I love my levels, and this I have also done a video on. The color correction level, this level here, level 2, was actually another photo that I took down at Bradley's Head, which that worked fantastically for. So I've actually done a tutorial on Photoshop for that, which is up on YouTube. This one here is for the sky, which I've also done a Photoshop tutorial on recently, so check that out. This is one of my favorite little techniques. I showed this to a friend of mine recently when I was doing some Photoshop coaching with her, and she absolutely loved it. She lost it because sometimes what you don't realize is that when it comes to sunrise and sunset, there's actually quite a bit of red in the sky. And just a small adjustment can really enhance and just make the photo look so like wow. One of my favorite little techniques there. Now, this one you're thinking, okay, well, something is happening here, but I can't quite tell what it is. This is my little overlay with opacity of 10% just to make it, so I love my blend modes, just to make it, again, pop a little bit more. This will be just a normal layer, and then my vignette, okay, which I've got a video coming out on. So my vignette, and then we're done. And that's my little watermark. So if you ever see one of these, you know it's a Hotspots or a Rob Potter special, or maybe not special, but it's my photo. And what I do, if you have your own watermarks and you're wondering how to bring them in, what you do is you go File and Place. Obviously, you have to have them somewhere. And what I would recommend is they're either in two formats, either a PSD or a PNG. So a PSD is a Photoshop document. A PNG is a portable something graphic, interchangeable graphic or something like that. But the PNG allows you to have a transparent background, where if you were trying to bring in a JPEG or something like that, it would be white or something around it. So File and Place, bring it in, position it wherever you like. I'm not a fan of having it in the center. I sort of usually pop it up on the left-hand side or the right-hand side, depending on the photo. But I do think they're important. It sort of, gets your brand out there. People sort of look out for it. And that's basically it, guys. So hopefully that's helped. A couple little things in there that, again, I'm exploring with Camera Raw. I'm very excited about, but lots of levels and things like that. So, again, all these sorts of little things I'm going to put out on YouTube to help you guys out. But any feedback that you have, let me know. Would love to hear any feedback that you have. Again, you can stay up to date with when these do come out by checking out either the newsletter or subscribing to YouTube. Until next time, guys, thanks so much. Have a fantastic week or month. Just have a fantastic life, and I'll talk to you guys very, very soon. Thanks, guys. Bye.